everyone, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard the Lighthouse Within with Ambar Paloma, but you can also call me Amber. Y'all, I am so pumped for this episode because I know there is someone out there who needs to hear it. Have you ever read something, heard a conversation, or seen a random post online and suddenly you can't stop seeing that idea everywhere? That is basically what happened to me with this episode. Now, psychologists might call this phenomenon priming, but I like to think that it was fate. So I think you were destined to hear this episode. This episode is all about letting go of how you'll achieve an outcome and trusting the process instead. We're kicking off a series on resilience for goals and dreams. And my hope is that this episode blesses anyone out there who struggles with overthinking, anxiety, or the need to control every little detail. If that's you, I encourage you to leave a comment, DM me, or leave a rating. I love hearing from you guys. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. So, without further ado, let's get into it. If this is your first time at the Lighthouse Within, I am so happy you decided to join me. We are on the ultimate voyage to resilience. AKA, we are learning how to navigate life's changes so that the next time you're faced with uncertainty, you have the self-trust to know you will make it through with your joy and your light intact. But before we dive deeper, I want to share something special that I think will really help you. Last year, I sat down with several of you over Zoom interviews who were navigating big life changes and seasons of uncertainty. And I asked you, what is the number one thing you need right now? And overwhelmingly, you all said clarity. That answer stuck with me, and I poured my heart into creating a free ebook called The Clarity Compass. It's a resource I made to help you cut through overwhelm, manage your emotions, figure out if it's intuition or anxiety, make decisions with more clarity, and much more. It's packed with tools to help you trust yourself and the process, even in seasons of uncertainty. I shared a snippet of the book with someone on Threads, and they left me this feedback. This just healed a little piece of me, a free offering from a sis who gets it. This is gold. Thank you. Now I get to decide if the situation works for me with clarity. If you've been feeling stuck or unsure about your next step, you can grab the Clarity Compass for free in the show notes. Now, let's dive in. Today, we're exploring how to let go of the how, so you can ditch the anxiety while still making progress towards your goals and dreams. And to kick things off, let me take you back to when I was 16 years old. I have this really vivid memory of my mom sweeping the house, and I tell her, "Mommy, I wish we could travel internationally like my friends do." She didn't even pause. My parents were both working-class immigrants at the time. She looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Ay, Ambar, you just need to focus on getting a scholarship to a good college, and one day, when you have a good job, you can travel the world and take me with you." Her words stuck with me, and they felt like both a promise and a challenge. I carried that with me for years, believing that if I could just check all the right boxes, I'd unlock this magical life where I could travel the world. But life has a way of teaching you that your box-checking plans don't mean a whole lot. Can I get an amen? I didn't take my first leisure trip until I was 25 years old. I had been stuck on this dream of traveling for 9 years, saving every spare penny to take myself on a solo trip to Spain after finishing my master's degree. And instantly, I fell in love. I remember looking out the train window from Andalusia to Madrid as olive groves flashed in the window and thinking, I don't want to leave. I can really see myself here. That trip planted a seed, and when I got back to the United States, I became obsessed. Obsessed with figuring out how I could move to Spain. Because one thing about me, do not get an idea into my head. I then discovered the concept of digital nomads on YouTube. Now, this was 2017, okay, before remote work was common. So the deal was if you wanted to be a digital nomad, you were a freelancer or had an online business and you hopped around the world. I thought, this is it. That's how I'll live in Spain and travel the world. I'll build an online business, become a digital nomad, and see everything. But as you know, I did not move to Spain as a digital nomad. Instead, I got a sign to move as an English teacher instead. But even once I was there, I was still chasing this idea of running my own online business to be able to travel the world. So I started a travel blog with a friend, right? And I poured my heart into that blog, convinced it was the ticket to becoming a digital nomad and seeing the world. I even started reaching out to companies to offer my services as a blogger and a photographer. And then, bam, COVID happened. Travel was shut down. Y'all, I couldn't even leave my house for 60 days straight, let alone leave the city for months. Suddenly, monetizing that blog did not feel like it was going to be the plan. The world had changed, but so did opportunities. Remote work exploded. I landed a freelance role in social media marketing, and I was like, this is it. We should have a drinking game. Take a shot every time I say, this is it. So around this time, people kept telling me, hey, Amber, you should really like go into coaching or like, I don't know, create content around personal growth or something. But I was like, yeah, that sounds really great, but I don't even know how I would get started. I don't have a degree in this or experience. So I was like, I'll do that after I finish this social media goal because social media is a straightforward plan to fund my digital nomad dreams. So I doubled down. I built up my client list to about 10 people. It was exciting. It was finally going to happen, y'all. I said, this is it. My digital nomad dreams are going to come true. But then I burned out big time. I was so burnt out, I was having a career crisis. I was sitting there thinking, should I finally pursue that personal growth path? I thought about quitting marketing for days. And then, like divine timing, okay? Because one thing about divine timing is it is always right on time. I got a message on LinkedIn from the company I work with now. I dropped all of my clients like it was hot and took the job. But let me tell you, the burnout was so real. And I ended up going back to therapy. I finally got it together. I convinced myself to stay in social media and got my eye back on the prize, the business that would allow me to be a digital nomad and travel the world. Last year, at the beginning of the year, I started working on a social media coaching offering. And I was like, this is it. This is how I make it happen. And then, bam, I went through a breakup and I dropped everything. I started a gratitude practice as one of my coping mechanisms, as you know. I share about it in episode 4. And one day it hit me mid-gratitude practice because I was literally like, so I'm thankful for my friends, and I'm thankful for my home, and I'm thankful for my health, and I'm thankful for my safety, and I'm thankful that I have a remote job that allows me to travel the world and live abroad. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm thankful for a remote job that allows me to travel the world and live abroad. Y'all. The life I had been working toward for years was already here. I was already living it, except it didn't look like what I thought it would. I wasn't hustling week to week as a freelancer. I had a stable remote job. I wasn't hopping from country to country because of visas. I had a home base in Portugal, surrounded by a wonderful community of friends because I got a resident card. And yet, I almost missed it because I was so stuck on how I thought I would achieve my dream. and what I thought that it should look like, that I didn't notice what was right in front of me. And that's the trap we fall into when we obsess over our plans, when we obsess over how. I talk about this in the 5th episode. Having a detailed plan for how something will happen doesn't actually make sense because your how is based on the limits of your current capabilities. When you cling to one plan, you're boxing yourself into what you know right now, even though there's an entire world of possibilities waiting for you in the future. The world changes, opportunities shift, you shift. The plan you made 3 years ago might not even be relevant today, let alone in another 3 years. And here's the kicker. You can't control the outcome. No matter how detailed your plan is, even if you check all the boxes, the outcome depends on factors beyond your control. The state of the world, the economy, politics, even the weather. So it's no wonder when you focus on these uncontrollable factors, you create a negative feedback loop in your brain where the brain identifies something it perceives as a problem. The lack of control over the situation amplifies your stress response, and this reinforces feelings of helplessness and frustration, making it even harder for you to let go and hello, anxiety. I touch on this in the Clarity Compass ebook, which includes a reflection page to help you break free from this loop and move forward. The funniest thing about this story, though, is that it is a double story of letting go of how you will achieve something. I don't even know if you realized it. There is something about big life changes that always has a way of making you question what you're really supposed to be doing. Because after that breakup, I was like, man, I haven't touched this social media course for weeks now. Around this time, I saw a video on TikTok saying that you should see your single season as a gift to find your purpose, and that when you are walking in your purpose, you will attract everything that is meant for you. So I was like, okay, what's my purpose? And so I prayed about it, and I said, help me find my purpose. I've been working on this social media thing, but for a long time, I've also been called to teach people about resilience, emotional intelligence, and intuition, except I don't know how I would do that. The next day, I'm at work. I'm a social media manager for a magazine, right? And one of the articles we published that day was called something like 7 questions to find your purpose. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this a sign? And when I read that article, it was so clear to me that I was supposed to help people become more resilient, more intuitive, and more emotionally intelligent. Now, if you recall, many years ago, several people told me I should do this very thing, and I brushed it off because I didn't know how I would ever even start to accomplish it. And one of the things I questioned was that I didn't have any education, not realizing that all of the times I failed at reaching my digital nomad dreams but got back up, all of the therapy I went through to learn to go through struggles in different points of my 20s, all of the self-help books I read while trying to figure it all out was the very thing that was training me to be on this microphone. I wasn't even actively trying to work on that goal. I was trying to achieve something else entirely. But if you ever needed a reminder that everything that is meant for you comes together eventually, I am happy to give you one. Because when I get on this microphone, I am confident that I'm supposed to be doing this right now. But I know it's not as simple as hearing a story and suddenly trusting the process. Otherwise, so many of us wouldn't struggle with letting go of how, would we now? I had a conversation with a friend recently that really resonated with me, and I want to share her words with you because maybe, just maybe, we're not the only ones who've ever felt this way. She said, I asked her if I could share this. So don't worry, I'm not just out here sharing my friends' text messages. She said, I've been a firm believer that if you want something, you have to make it happen. You don't have anyone to rely on but yourself. And the anxiety keeps pushing you to do things because there's a constant fear that if you don't act, everything will fall apart. And then she added, I think it makes sense though. If we want to stop overthinking, we need to trust the universe more and let life take its course. I tried doing that, but Sometimes I forget and go back to my old thinking patterns. And I also try not to question how, just keep believing it will all work out by itself, which for me, to be honest, feels like a very passive approach to life. Now, I'm really grateful that she shared that because it really resonated with me. Her words really stuck with me for a long time. So much that weeks later I was like, "Hey, can I write a podcast episode about this?" I confided in her that I used to feel the same way. Like I had no one to rely on but myself. That belief cost me so much anxiety over the years, which fueled my overthinking and my fear of uncertainty. But as I kept thinking about our conversation, I asked myself, what changed? What changed for me? And then it hit me. The response was right in her words. My beliefs changed. Over the last 7 years, I experienced so many failed plans that turned out okay or even better than expected. And each of those experiences helped me grow in resilience and self trust. And just as importantly, I grew in faith. Together, those changes helped me stop worrying so much about outcomes. My friend's struggle remind me of something that we were talking about in episode 4. I don't know if you remember the 3 layers of habit change, as explained in Atomic Habits by James Clear. He says that there are 3 layers. There's the outer layer, which is your outcomes. This is, for example, saying something like, I want to read 52 books this year. Then there's the middle layer, which is your habits. This is concerned more with your systems. So that's saying something like, okay, I'm going to ensure that I read 100 pages every single night to make sure that I reach my goal. And then there's the innermost, deepest layer, which is your identity. Your identity is where your beliefs live, your worldview, your self-image, your judgments. And if you don't address this deepest layer, you'll eventually sabotage yourself at the habit or outcome level because your actions will be fighting against your identity. So, for example, if you never change your identity to say, I love reading, I am an avid reader, you will never manage to read those 52 books a year if you continue to believe that you don't enjoy reading. Makes sense, right? This idea came up again when I was scrolling on Threads and I saw a post by a friend of mine who is a relationship coach, Bernadette. And she wrote this line that really stuck with me. And it said, the process is where most of life happens. The process is where the faith increases. It made me think about how outcome-oriented I used to be. When you live your life constantly worrying for the next outcome, it feels like you've never arrived. The truth is, the outcome is just one moment. But if you're always chasing that next one moment, you spend most of your life feeling like you're in transition, like you haven't arrived to living. And that feeling of being in constant transition, it adds to your anxiety, your worry, and your sense of dissatisfaction. So you start trying to control everything. But when you shift your focus to the process, something magical happens. You find your joy in right now. When you focus on the outcome, you delay your joy for a future that may or may not come. And that's why outcome-focused minds are usually impatient minds, because your happiness, stability, and fulfillment are all hanging on a future event. But here's the good news. You're already where you're supposed to be right now. So how do we break free from this obsession with the how? The first thing I want you to do is to focus on your current assignment. Just like mommy told little 16-year-old me, I, Ambar, you just need to focus on getting a scholarship to a good university. Well, I want to tell you, friend, friend, you just need to focus on your current assignment. Hear me out. Pretend you're on a road trip. The GPS doesn't tell you every step all at the same time and then just go silent. You'd end up forgetting half of it, at the very least, before you even started driving. Instead, it gives you the next step, and you trust that after you complete that, you'll keep getting the next step. But imagine if you were so anxious about a turn that was 2 hours away that you completely missed the GPS saying, exit now. That's how life works. When you're overly focused on the outcome, you miss what's right in front of you. Missing that exit might add hours to your drive, But if you keep taking the next right step, you will reach your destination. Every season in life has its own assignment, a next right step that you need to complete right now. So take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, in what areas of my current life am I not showing up fully because I'm so worried about the future? How can I show up more fully in this season? If you need help figuring out your next step, there's a section on this in the Clarity Compass, so be sure to check it out. But there's another thing you can do to figure out your next right step, which is point number 2 to focusing on the process, and it is to prepare for your dream. So, building on the first point, the second shift is to focus on preparing for your dream instead of worrying about how you'll achieve it or when the outcome will come. Preparation is about becoming the person who can both achieve and maintain your dreams. Ask yourself, be real, okay? This is a safe space because no one is going to know the answer to what you just said but you. Ask yourself, do I have the mindset, habits, and skills I need to both attract and keep the thing that I want? If the answer is no, don't stress, but that's where you need to start. Focus on building those things now because that's what will determine the outcome, not you having some perfect plan. It's you actually being ready for it. As Zig Ziglar said, success occurs when opportunity meets preparation. Now, here's the key. Pick just one thing to work on in the season, okay? One mindset, one habit, or one skill. Whatever feels most essential to where you are right now. Keep it simple. Don't overwhelm yourself trying to do everything all at once, okay? Focusing on one thing not only makes progress easier to track, but it also builds your confidence and self-trust. That foundation will make it easier to face future challenges with resilience and ease. The third thing I want you to do is show up fully. Even when things don't go as planned, remember this: every experience, and I do mean every experience, no matter how disappointing it feels in the moment, is preparing you for what's next. My failed travel blog, it taught me the exact social media skills I needed to land the role I've now built my social media career around, as well as my life abroad. And that whole saga and all of my 20s prepared me to teach others about resilience. What feels like a detour today might just be your training ground for tomorrow's opportunities. Think about it. Maybe you had a relationship that you went through that didn't work out. Breakups suck. But maybe it taught you how to communicate better, how to set boundaries, or how to love yourself first. And if your dream is to have a healthy long-term partnership, those lessons are priceless. Or maybe you're in a job that you don't love. You dread Mondays, like hello Sunday scaries every time. And you count the minutes until Friday. But what if that same job is teaching you the planning, discipline, or problem solving skills you'll need to pivot into the career of your dreams? And sometimes life just feels uneventful. Nothing's happening, and you're questioning everything. But maybe that season of stillness is what you need to recover, heal, and prepare for what's next. Healing is preparation too, because remember, would you be able to keep the thing that you want once you get it? And maybe if you haven't healed, the answer is no. And if you're questioning everything right now, that's not failure. That's growth. It's better to pause and reflect now to realign and get on the right track than to keep going in the wrong direction and realize it years from now. Failures, setbacks, and even periods of stillness, they're not the end. They're chapters in your story, tools in your toolkit, and stepping stones that bring you closer to your purpose. Trust me. The fourth thing I want you to do is to let yourself grieve. It's okay to feel disappointed when things don't work out. In fact, it's more than okay. It's human. Disappointment is a natural response to loss, and learning to grieve it properly is one of the most important lessons I've come to understand. I think sometimes we don't talk about grief enough. Grief happens after any significant loss, and it isn't a weakness. It's a way of honoring what mattered to you, even if it didn't work out the way you hoped. But here's the thing. Grieving is not where the story ends. It's a bridge, a process that allows you to release what didn't work out so you can make space for what's meant to come next. And if you're feeling stuck in that place, I want to remind you that success doesn't come from clinging to what's out of your control. It comes when preparation meets opportunity. The more you focus on what you can control, your mindset, your habits, your preparation, the more resilient and ready you'll be when the right moment comes. And sometimes that moment might look completely different from what you imagined it to look like. It did for me. Like Brianna Weiss says in The Mountain Is You, sometimes we don't get what we want because we are meant for things far greater than we'd ever let ourselves believe. So allow yourself to grieve, but don't let disappointment be the end of the story. Let it be the chapter that refines you, that sharpens your self-trust, and that prepares you for the opportunities waiting on the other side. And if you need support on that journey, check out the Clarity Compass in the show notes. It's designed to help you process emotions like disappointment, manage uncertainty, and step forward with clarity and confidence. This would not be an episode of The Lighthouse Within without a final message. So if you're ready, please close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and take a deep breath with me. Let the air fill your lungs and bring you into this moment. Feel your feet rooted beneath you and know that even in stillness, there is life. Exhale slowly. Now, with your hands still over your heart, receive this message. When the how feels unclear, when the path ahead seems foggy, and you're tempted to hold on tighter to control, I hope you remember this. Life isn't waiting for you in some distant, perfect future. It's here, now, in the waiting, in the process, and even in the struggles. The process is not a pause from your dreams. It is where life happens. It's where resilience grows, where strength is refined, and where the truest joy and connection are found. Even if this season feels heavy, even if it's not what you hoped for, it's part of your story, shaping you in ways you may not see yet. Trust that each small step, each moment of faith is guiding you towards something greater than you can imagine. You don't have to wait for the future to live fully. You are exactly where you need to be. Take one more deep breath in. Hold it and let it out slowly. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for tuning in. I always love sitting down for a little chat with you. If you want additional support on these topics, please check out that Clarity Compass ebook and don't forget to subscribe so you know what's coming next. And in the meantime, stay grounded, stay in the process, and have a fabulous day.